So ordered. Congressman Timmons.
Mr. Chairman. I've been working on what I was going to ask for the last 20 minutes, and the fact that he started asking my questions at the end is a good sign. It's a good sign. We keep saying that this should not be a partisan issue. And I just want to expand on the fact that it really isn't partisan at all. And I really want to begin by saying, who is the current situation even actually good for? Obviously, Congressman Biggs just talked about New York. Just yesterday, Mayor Adams complained about the fact that he was going to have to turn Randall Island, which is a kid's soccer field, into a migrant shelter for 2,000 adult migrants. 2 weeks ago, D.C. Mayor Bowser announced they spent $20 million this year on the migrant crisis. Even some of the most progressive members of the D.C. City Council that have been ardently supportive of sanctuary cities have now said that D.C. is a border town. All of these people that have been pushing these pro-illegal immigration policies, these lawless policies at the southern border, they're now coming around to say, oh, this doesn't really work. And it doesn't just adversely impact border counties and cities, it impacts the whole country. As you said, Mr. Arthur, every town is a border town. On top of that, I know 8 people that have died from a fentanyl overdose that I've met throughout the course of my life. And hundreds of thousands of people are dying from fentanyl overdoses, and they have families, and it's just a huge tragedy of an epic proportion that is extremely preventable. It's extremely preventable. So if it's not good for the American people, if it's not good for even the most liberal cities who have been spouting this ultra-progressive nonsense for decades, if they're coming around, I think that it might be past time for the Biden administration to come around. But before we get to that, who is it good for? And Sheriff Daniels, when we were meeting with your deputies, I think it's great for the cartels. Y'all threw out the number $2.6 billion in revenue. What is the time that they had $2.6 billion in revenue? Is that annual?
Annual number.
That is an annual number. So
that's what they took home, by the way. That was after all
that's
costs.
Net.
Yeah, that's net.
Yeah. I would love to see the accounting on all this. But so we literally are allowing the lawlessness at our southern border, which I would argue is simply because the previous administration is just so hated by the current administration. Anything that they did, anything the Trump administration did, it had to be undone immediately. And Americans are dying, our cities are overrun, and we do not have the infrastructure to address this. Our economy is suffering because our tax base doesn't support the institutions, doesn't support the hospitals, doesn't support the schools, doesn't support the roads. We just really, really, really need to do something about this. And I hope that the Biden administration is going to start listening as their mayors in their major cities are sounding the alarm. Obviously, Sheriff Daniels, you've been sounding the alarm for years. And I spoke with my law enforcement, my solicitor, my sheriff this afternoon. This is a huge problem. We're fighting it the best that we can, but we need to secure the southern border. We need to finish the wall. We need to add technology. We need to reinstate remain in Mexico. We need to get the Mexican government to redeploy the 28,000 guardsmen to secure their side of the border. We need to secure our side of the border, and we need to fix our immigration policy going forward because it doesn't work, and people all over the world want to come to the United States to pursue the American dream, and they are denied that opportunity because all of the resources are being sucked to the illegal part of the equation, and the legal side does not have the resources to address the need. And by the way, our entire economy is suffering because of it. We have millions of jobs that need people that want to come here and work hard and pursue the American dream, raise their family, and they are denied that opportunity because this administration refuses to secure our southern border and refuses to enforce the rule of law. And that is the message I send to the White House. That is the message I send to the president. It is past time that we make changes, and I will do whatever I can in Congress to help fix this problem. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you. Mr. Edwards?
Arthur, just very quickly, could you remind all of us what is the original purpose of asylum?
The original purpose of asylum is to ensure that individuals who have been persecuted on account of race, religion, nationality, membership in a particular social group, or political opinion are not returned to that persecution.
And so is it your observation that that purpose is being used as it's intended today, or is it in some way being abused?
Absolutely not. It's not being used in the manner that it should be. And very briefly, when you read interviews in the newspapers, you hear them on the press, people are coming here because they're fleeing poverty, they're fleeing crime, they're looking for a better life. Those are all, and I can understand that, and I can understand the instinct for doing that. None of those things are a basis for asylum. Right now, the Biden administration has admitted so many people into the United States that there are 1.4 million plus individuals currently applying for asylum in this country. Representative Biggs, Mr. Chairman Biggs, had talked about 84 months for people to be put into proceedings. It's actually much worse than that. Some of those people aren't even going to start the asylum process until 2032 at the New York office. They're not even going to get into proceedings to begin the 4+ year process to apply for asylum. And that's bad in a couple of ways, Mr. Edwards. One, people who come here and make bogus claims are taking advantage of the humanitarian instincts of the American people and making it less likely that future people who truly need asylum are going to get it. Two, the more quickly that we can get asylum for an individual who truly deserves it, the more quickly that person is, one, going to be able to get their life in order here, but two, and more importantly, bring relatives back home who probably are either persecuted because of very similar claims or because of their relationship to the primary asylum applicant to this country. We want to give people asylum as quickly as possible who deserve asylum. But right now there are so many people filing bogus, weak, or non-existent claims. It's gumming up the system. It's denying justice all around.
And so I think I hear you saying that there's a distinct difference between folks that are coming here for a better way of life and those folks that really are fearful of persecution for the reasons that you mentioned.
Absolutely, and it's ruining the asylum system, sir.
All right. Thank you. Sheriff, have you seen an increase in unaccompanied minors coming across the border?
We don't see that here in Cochise County. What we see, probably 80-90% what we see, Congressman, is single male adults, ages 20 to 30 years of age, very healthy, camouflaged from Bodega headgear. We see very, very few children and females coming through Cochise County.
But you do see children in America working to help cartels smuggle immigrants across the border. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I believe last year, and again, top of my head here, I don't stab right in front of me. Last year, just in Cochise County, what we were addressing, we had over, I believe it was 89 to 100 juvenile drivers smuggling for the cartels that we took into custody and got our hands on.
And how much do they earn to smuggle a body across the border?
Unfortunately, that's another illusion. They advertise 2,500 safe routes through Cochise County, easy money that's lucrative to these young kids, these vulnerable minds. And when they finally get to their destinations, it's always different. Let's put it that way, what they actually get paid. But it's for these young people, it's a lot of money.
So who's advertising to these young people that they can make $2,500?
The cartels, the criminal cartels.
And what method are they using to advertise?
Social media and all apps. Pretty much any social media apps, the popular ones are all over there.
Mr. Ladd, why is your property a primary crossing point for illegal activity?
Well, number one, there's a good infrastructure system in Mexico. We have a port of entry at Naco, Arizona, Naco, Sonora, and it's pretty easy terrain. And originally, Border Patrol, I believe, deliberately put them into Cochise County, thinking that they wouldn't climb over the Huachuca Mountains or the Peloncillo Mountains to the east. So the terrain's too rough. But and then the Highway 92 is 3 miles from the border. So you got a 3 mile walk, you get loaded up, and you're gone.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for being a part of this solution.
I will, if I could add to who benefits from this, look at the NGOs that are getting subsidized for taking care of the illegals. They're making millions of dollars on a service that I think is corrupted, in my opinion.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I yield back.
Mr. Siscomani.
I ended the last round by saying that the federal government is failing, and I really stand by that. That means that they're failing everyone. I mean, they're failing all of you here by not doing what needs to be done to protect. They're also failing our agents, though. They're failing our Border Patrol agents and those that are in the front line fighting hard, and those in law enforcement as well. And I would even venture to say that they're failing those that are seeking an opportunity of a better life in this country. They're absolutely failing everyone. There's no win on this one for really anyone. One of the, in talking about our agents here, one of the main efforts, I came here shortly after starting my first term just a few months ago, and one of the first things I did was meet with our Border Patrol agents and law enforcement. We had a combined meeting. One of the things that I heard was a need to do something about making it illegal for making it a federal crime for evading law enforcement when they're fleeing. We talk about these high-speed chases. We need to tackle the root issue, which is, again, the social media aspect, but also increasing penalties on those that are fleeing law enforcement, because right now it's not. And I think many of the people in the room were shocked, including myself, that it's not even a federal crime to do so. So that's one of the things that we've taken immediate action on. Now, Mr. Ladd, talking about penalties to those that are breaking the law here, we talked about those transporting people, but also on the spotter side. I visited your ranch. I've been there several times, and you've taken me around in several aspects of it. I got to see the wall stacked up there that was there for a long time without being used. One of the other things you showed me was the activity that you can see on the other side, and the activity by these spotters, because I also have a bill here that will increase penalties for those people that are enabling and participating in the spotting system. Can you talk a little bit about the spotters, please?
Well, it's widespread on the whole border, and it's they got good optics. They're dedicated to. They'll be at their outposts for 2 weeks at a time, and they've got really good cell service, so they're in communication with the rest of the smuggling crew. And when they don't see law enforcement or Border Patrol, they go for it. Mm-hmm. And they're on my ranch. They're in the mountains above us. We're out where we were this morning, and nobody can touch them. And even the Mexican Army won't touch them. But they know exactly what's going on. They know how many people are on the border. They know how many people they got crossing at any given time. They stage it. Example on our ranch is the first shift of Border Patrol in the morning. They're going to catch 3 groups. They're going to be tied up an hour and a half. And while they're processing that group waiting for transport, there's going to be 5 groups that go right past them.
Exactly. We've seen that, and that's exactly what they're reporting as well. I'm going to try to fit in 2 more points. Mr. Arthur, real quick here, you talked about the impact on the legal system here, on the legal part of becoming a resident and eventually a citizen. I know that system well. I was born in Mexico, and I actually became a United States citizen in 2006. And then I became a U.S. Congressman in 2022, 16 years later. This is the best country in the world. This country is a welcoming country. It's a country of laws as well, of being gracious and being welcoming of so many people around the world. And I can tell you firsthand how many holes and things we need to fix on the legal side of becoming a United States citizen, given that my family and I got here years and years before. I got here as a young child, and it took us that long to be able to finally become U.S. citizens. Now, I know that firsthand because I went through it. I started as a child and became a citizen when I was an adult. So on this impact that the illegal activity right now is having on the legal side of people that have been in the waiting list and on line basically for so long, can you talk just briefly on that? And I want to get one more point in, if you may.
Absolutely. One, the Gallup organization does polling on whether people want impressions of immigrants to the United States. That polling has taken a very dire turn. And a plurality of Americans now want to see less legal immigration in the United States, which is bad. We want to, continue to bring in the vibrancy to this country. But there are a couple of other aspects of that very briefly, Mr. Ciscomani. One is we have so many asylum claims that are pending before the Immigration Court, before USCIS. A large number of people who want to bring their family to the United States, who want to come to the United States legally, their applications are stuck in that backlog. They are truly suffering. At the ports, we have legitimate travelers who want to cross the border into the United States. Right now, CBP-1 we've heard talked about, 1,450 interviews per day, and you could show up anytime during a 23-hour period. You can imagine what effect that's going to have on the ports on the other side and on the ability to stop the fentanyl that Mr. Timmons had talked about before. If you're pulling those agents off to talk to somebody who doesn't have any right to be here, you're going to slow up that system.
Thank you. I'm out of time. The last point I want to make is several of you mentioned, and I think it's important food for thought here for my colleagues on and also for everyone here. Several of everyone here brought up the point of Mexico and their role in all this, and how when they were cooperating just a few years ago, things were a lot better. And the diplomacy needed here, and also them being our number one trading partner, living on the border like all of us do here, is an asset, not a liability. And it shouldn't be seen as a liability, but it's become one in a lot of ways due to this lack of enforcement. So we need to continue to work, and Mexico needs to work with us as well in order to live on their, live up to their end of the securing the border piece as well. And with that, Mr. Chair, once again, thank you so much for bringing the attention to the border and for bringing both subcommittees here to CD6 in Arizona. Thank you so much. Thanks to the witnesses as well.
Thank you very much. Mr. Biggs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a closing statement. When I chair my committee in Congress in a solo fashion, I don't allow closing statements, but Chairman Grothman is one nice fella, and I was surprised that he was going to give me a closing statement. So I have a few things that I want to say. Somebody said, what can we do? I want to address that. I want to talk about what Congress can do when you have a slight majority in the House, the other side has a different majority in the Senate, and the White House seems to disagree with us on what to do with this issue. The first thing is the Constitution, the founders gave us the origination of the spending. That is what they gave to us as the first check. I implore, if people really believe this is the existential crisis that I think it is, and you look at our spending, which is absolutely nutty crazy, then it is time to a laser-like focus on where you want the money spent, get rid of the crappy programs, and focus on where you want that money spent. And if they don't spend it to enforce the law, they lose that funding. They should not be allowed to have that funding. And then at the same time, you make sure that the ICE and that the Border Patrol and others enforcing border law have the revenue they need, the sources they need. And that's step one. Second thing is you have hearings and transparency like this. Why is that? It is because everybody in this room, I think, at least has some recognition of the urgency of reaching a solution on this problem. But there are many in this country that do not. We had a hearing in Judiciary 2 weeks ago. Everybody from the Northeast said, hey, there's no problem on the border. Even Mr. Nadler, who is from New York, for mercy's sake, where even Eric Adams is now frantic. You have to continue to elevate that. The third thing is we have something called the Holman Rule that allows us to go in and reorganize various aspects of departments and agencies that are failing to do their duty. That needs to be done at the highest levels of Department of Homeland Security. And that is also goes hand in glove with another tool that the framers gave us, to hold accountable elected or appointed officials within the executive branch. When you have officials in the executive branch that are public officials who have violated the public trust, and we cannot wait till the next election to remove them from office and have them replaced, then we need to act. That's called impeachment. That is what needs to happen here, in my opinion, of Secretary Mayorkas. Additionally, specifically, let me give you an example on the funding. We must stop funding the non-government organizations that are actually facilitating it. Studies and reports have demonstrated that there are 9 particular NGOs that are helping to fuel this border crisis. They're getting people to come across. They're facilitating human trafficking. I think you have to use every congressional tool available. If you want to solve the problem, that's what you're going to have to do. You have to make sure that, let's see, I've hit everything else. Oh, you have to provide for support for local law enforcement. Look what's happened here. And I'll give you another example. So Sheriff Daniels in the Cochise County has done a great job trying to help out. I'll give you another example. In Texas, if you go down to the Texas border, Eagle Pass, what has happened there? It's not CBP because the leaders of CBP are not helping enforce Eagle Pass. It is Texas Department of Public Safety that is trying to secure that. And so the Supreme Court has held that when the federal government vacates the field, local jurisdictions can step in. Article 4, Section 4 makes it clear, in my opinion, that we have failed because it is our responsibility to make sure that no invasion takes place in any state. That's what Article 4, Section 4 requires of the federal government. We have failed. Just the sheer numbers. There has never been that kind of incursion in any nation in the history of the United States, in the world. In the world. It just has never happened. So, Mr. Grothman, the chairman, is probably tired of hearing from me. It's his fault. He gave me a closing statement. But I decided to just take advantage of it and just rant for a little minute. He didn't even tell me how much time I had. So those are things I think we can do. We have to do them. We have to take action. I call upon these folks here showed up for the hearing today. I'm grateful for them. But I call on my other colleagues. Help us out. Yield.